Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Vinay. You're the only one right now.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Madam Rasagna has joined us.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Very good morning to you. It'll not be a good morning anymore. You're about to enter my class.
Okay.
Hmm. Rasagna, I think you have to mute.
No, sir.
I'm getting some disturbance.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. We'll wait a couple of minutes more and okay. Let's get going because we're running late as usual. Okay, so till yesterday we were basically discussing the syllabus. Today we'll go into a discussion of the things that are there in the syllabus. So we will be covering these three things. I hope to be able to cover these three things: sources of ancient Indian thought and the concept of dharma and danda, and the nature of state in ancient India. Now, I think that the concept of dharma and danda is the easiest of the lot. I'm sorry, the nature of state is the easiest of the lot. The concept of dharma is not easy. The concept of danda is reasonably easy. Okay, reasonably, not very, but reasonably easy. But the sources of ancient Indian thought, and if you look at the titling I have done, I have not used the word political because there was nothing political in ancient India. Please remember that the word political owes its lineage to the Greek word polis. Okay, P-O-L-I-S. We discussed that at some length last semester. I sincerely hope that you people remember that. And there was no polis in ancient India. Ancient India, very much to the contrary, was not about a small space called a polis. It was about the universe. The ancient Indian system of thought actually is not one unified system of thought. There are different things. There is Buddhism, which stands out on its own. There is Jainism that stands out on its own. But much before that, many centuries before Buddhism and Jainism happened, you had a form of thought which has now been called Hinduism. Perhaps a better word for that would be Sanatana Dharma. Okay, if you read Gandhi carefully, and you should read Gandhi carefully, he's a great man. He basically rarely uses the term Hindu. He uses Sanatana Dharma. Okay, Sanatana Dharma is eternal dharma. Okay, that which doesn't change with time. Dharma is dharma. Okay, it does not change with time. So that's why it's called Sanatana, which means eternal, ever present, unchanging. But we do have a theory of history which is very degenerative. And in this degeneration, we begin with pure dharma and end up with adharma in the Kali Yuga. And that is when the world cannot sustain itself anymore and has to basically destroy itself. And again, a new cycle of creation will begin. Okay, creation might not be such a good word here, but I'll tell you what the actual word is in a moment. So let's go straight on to the sources of ancient Indian thought. For now, I have not included Buddhism, and anyway, Jainism is not there. So, but here I have not yet introduced you to Buddhism, because I think we should first deal with Sanatana Dharma. So if you are looking at the sources of ancient Indian thought, what are we looking at? We are looking at how Indian thought, or from what did Indian thought derive itself? Okay, that is what we mean by sources of Indian thought. Now here it is, a veritably huge thing that we have to deal with. Ancient Indian thought doesn't have one source, actually, strictly speaking. Though of late, people have been talking about Ashtadasa Vidya. If you look at that word, Ashtadasa, it is 18. For the ancient Indians, the number 18 held great significance. And Ashtadasa Vidya is education that you had in 18 of these things. So what are the 18 things? The 18 things are right here in front of you. Vedas, you have the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, the Atharvana Veda. Some people call it Atharveda, but that's because they can't say Atharvana Veda. It is Atharvana Veda. So for here, Vedangas, okay? So you have Siksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Vyakarana, Chandas, and then you have 4 Upavedas: Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda, Sthapatya Veda, and the 18th one is just Shastras. Okay, there are different Shastras. Some people will not add the Vedas in the Ashtadasha Vidya, and they claim that Ashtadasha Vidya is 14 things, which means they're removing the Vedas from that because they believe that the Vedas have to be studied in their own rights. But when you call something Ashtadasa, Ashta is 8, Dasa is 10, Vidya is studying 18 things, you can't say it has 14 in it. So my humble submission to you people is that we follow this classification, not the classification which says it has 14 subjects in it. Now, so that is Ashtadasa Vidya. And the greatness of Ashtadasa Vidya is that it does not confine itself to anything which is in the nature of a specialization. Today, everything is specialization. Okay, you ask Yasmin to teach you political thought, she'll say, I can't teach that. My specialization is international relations. You ask me to teach international relations, I'll say, well, I'm uneducated, so I can't teach anything anyway. That's what I'll say. But those who specialize will claim that this is my specialization. When you go to a cardiologist, you're going to a cardiologist if you have a heart problem. You don't go to a cardiologist and say, I am having a headache or I have a problem with my head, right? Then he'll say, please go to a neurologist. Okay. If you have a problem with the throat, they say, go to an ENT specialist. So everything is specialization, which is knowing more and more about less and less. And that is really wonderfully demonstrated by Western medicine. But that's not their concern right now. So Ashtadasa Vidya is a all-round education to create an individual who knows everything. Who knows everything, and it is through knowledge that this individual can lead a dharmic life, and by leading a dharmic life can break the cycle of life and death and become one with God or Brahman. Okay, so the first component of the Ashtadasha Vidya is the Vedas. Now, please do not treat these Vedas as holy books, because the Vedas are not holy books. Okay, the Vedas are descriptions of various surroundings in which the Vedas were set. Okay, and they also give you certain kinds of rituals which are cosmological in their origins, which is the entire cosmos is a living thing. Okay, so they also have geography built into them, because if you look at the Rig Veda, it describes the area which is Khurasan and Samarkand and those kind of areas. That is not yet, it hadn't yet come into the Indo-Gangetic plain. By the time it came into the Indo-Gangetic plain, which is also called the Doab region, Do is to Ab in both Persian and in Sanskrit. Ab means water. So the land between two rivers, the Ganga and the Yamuna, okay, so that land is called the Doab region. Now it's called the Cow Belt, thanks to the BJP. But it is by the time it is the Samaveda, it is by then that we come into the Indo-Gangetic plain. Now, the original Rig Veda was not written in the form of verse. In fact, you must understand that there was no versification at all, because people didn't have even the tools to write down things. And when they didn't have the tools to write down things, they had to remember everything here. So you must look at our ancestors who belong to the Vedic period. Look at them with awe, because these are all the things that they had in their head. So first and foremost, you have the Rig Veda. I'm not going to go into the descriptions of that. Then you have the Yajur Veda, which comes closer into the Baluchistan, Pakistan kind of area, or possibly even Punjab. And the rituals here are slightly different. It doesn't mean that the Rig Veda gave way to the Yajur Veda. No, it doesn't mean that. The Rig Veda remains as it is. The Yajur Veda also comes into being. And the Sama Veda, people will tell you Sama Veda is music, which is completely wrong. Sama Veda is not music. Sama Veda is the versification of the Rig Veda. Okay, the Rig Veda did not have poetic verse that could be narrated like a song. Okay, so the Samaveda basically arranges the content of the Rig Veda in the form of poetic and lyrical verses, VERSES. Okay, and it adds only 75 shlokas. It adds only 75 new shlokas to the Rig Veda, but otherwise most of it is the Rig Veda repeated and versified, so that it could be the utterance. The Vedas have to be read aloud, okay, because the ancients believed that when you read things aloud or recite things aloud, they didn't have things to read. When you recite things aloud, then the reverberations that you create through the recitation has a positive effect upon yourself and your surroundings. Okay, so that is the importance of the Vedas. The Atharvana Veda is another Veda. I'm not going to go into the contents now. Let's see if we have time, we'll go into it later. Now, the third thing that we're looking at here is Vedangas. Now, Vedangas have to be understood as the limbs. Anga is a limb. Your leg is an anga, your hand is an anga. So Vedangas, so you have the Vedas, and these Vedas have these limbs. What are these limbs? Siksha. Siksha not as punishment, but as education. Okay? Please remember that. It is not punishment. It is vidya. All right. And then you have kalpa. Kalpa is one cycle of creation, which in terms of human years runs into 4,320 million years. But it is one day in the life of the Brahmanda, the universe, or the Brahman, which is the same thing, the universe. Okay, it is one day. Okay, then you have Nirukta. Nirukta is when somebody is not clear about the meaning of something, then it is an explicit explanation, which also has the component of interpretation built into it. So Nirukta is that. And then you have Vyakarana. Okay, in the Western civilization, people say that grammar, syntax, they were first created by the Roman thinker Virgil. But Vyakarana was there in ancient India. And Vyakarana is not just to be understood as grammar or syntax. Vyakarana is a combination of grammar or syntax in conjunction with what was that? Somebody screamed. Okay. Right. So Vyakarana has even semantics built into it. It has semiotics, symbolism built into it. So Vyakarana is basically a complete way of understanding language and using it. Okay, so Vyakarana is one of the important Vedangas. Then you have this thing called Chandas. Chandas is nothing but putting things in the form of a verse and making it verse, V-E-R-S-E, verse, poetic verse, and making it poetic and melodious. So to make something poetic and to make something melodious, you have to stretch words over a certain kind of metering. Okay, this is there even in English. When I was doing in my English literature in the undergraduate days, we studied a few things, one of which was called the iambic pentameter, of which I don't remember much right now, but that is also not something that we need to know in this context. So the chandas, if you like, you can write the spelling as Chandas, which will become chandas, but I don't know. This is the beauty of English language. One of the American presidents, can't remember who he was, his name I have forgotten. I think it was Dwight Eisenhower. He said, "Stupid is a man who cannot spell a word in at least 3 different ways." Okay, so therefore, I would basically say, don't use this spelling because most people use Chandas. This is a spelling that I use, not alone, but from wherever I have done my research. So Chandas is how to put things to verse, making poetry, metering out sentences and making them what do we say, making them melodious. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Now, apart from the Vedas and the Vedangas, you have Upavedas. Upavedas are a subsystem of Vedas. You have heard of Ayurveda. Ayurveda deals with health. Ayu in Sanskrit is the span of life. In fact, it is life. Okay, so Ayurveda deals with life, and originally it didn't confine itself only to human beings. Ayurveda was also used on animals which were in distress. But you must understand that even today, many animals instinctively know the cure for some of their problems. You'll see dogs eating mud. If they have a mineral deficiency, they do that. If the dog's stomach is not right, then what the dog does is that it will eat leaves. So the saying that you have that the lion will never eat grass is wrong. Lions are known to eat grass when they have or when they perceive a problem with their own stomachs. So Ayurveda deals with life. Dhanurveda comes from Dhanush. Dhanush is the bow and arrow. But don't see it only in that narrow sense of bow and arrow. Dhanurveda is your ability to fight with various different kinds of weapons. Bow and arrow, obviously. Mace. In Telugu, it is called Gadha. Unfortunately, in Hindi also it's called Gadha. But there is also another Gadha, which is different. That's a donkey. This is Gadha. Okay, so Gadha Vidya. Then sword fighting. All these become a part of what we are calling Dhanur Veda. Then you have Gandharva Veda. Telugu films have done a great disservice to the Gandharvas. They've been shown as idiots most of the time. And NTR was one who showed Gandharvas as, I know when you cast extras, thin, emaciated fellows who look like they're begging, they don't look like Gandharvas. Gandharvas were considered to be extremely good looking life forms, and they were completely knowledgeable in art forms like music, playing of instruments. Narada and Tumbura are the ones who are supposed to play the veena very well. And then you have those who sing, singers, dancers. All these people are put under the category of the Gandharva Veda. Okay. Now we come to the fourth one, which is called Sthapatya Veda. Sthapatya Veda is basically nothing but architecture, sculpture, and along with that, designs. All these things come under Sthapatya Veda. Construction also comes under Sthapatya Veda. I'm running out of time. I'm getting a warning here. I'll stop here today. I'll pick up with Sthapatya Veda tomorrow to give you an example of how this was used, because this was used even during the Chola times, which is not very long ago. But the other ones may be things which happened much before. But Sthapatya Veda was alive till recently. Recently in historical terms. And it has, you know, the Meenakshi temple in Madurai has flummoxed Western architects, sculptors. They said, without technology, how did these people break granite stones? Because that temple complex is built with granite. So, and then it was revealed to them as to how it was done by a sthapati. So there are still some sthapatis who are alive. One of them is Ganapati Sthapati, who created that monolithic carving of the Buddha, which stands, it's made out of one rock. Monolithic is made only out of one rock. He made that carving of the Buddha, which stands in the middle of the Hussain Sagar. His name was Ganapati Sthapati. So there are some Sthapatis. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. And hopefully a few more of you will turn up. Otherwise, it's a bit of a drag. Even half an hour classes, if we can't do, I think that's a bit of a, I don't know. Let me not say anything. So thank you, Rasagna. Thank you, Mr. Vinay Kumar. And Mr. Kola, who has left in the middle, he decided he's had enough. I suppose he knows all these things already. Okay, so we'll pick up from Sthapatya Veda tomorrow. I wouldn't be talking about it for too long. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
And see you tomorrow, same time, hopefully. Thank you.